Hi class. Well, I've restarted my computer. My application is still acting a little strange. If I run it and I choose a flower, it works right, but it puts it over here in my tree preference also. And if I click on trees, I'm losing my flowers. I just have weird things going on. So like always, I assumed it was the computer's fault, right? But maybe it's my code. Let's take a look and see. I'm going to double click on my flowers combo box first and check that code. It's only one line, right? When I look at it, I see that in this code, I'm saying if they select a flower, change the text box that shows the flower result, set the text equal to whatever the text property is of the combo box for the flowers. So that looks right. It's all associated properly. Now, if I look at my text changed event, I'm working with flowers here, but it looks like I've inadvertently said I want to change my trees result. Well, that's not right. I need my flower result. Now that should fix one problem. So instead of having my flower that I type in showing up over in my trees, it should show up in my selected flower. So see how easy it is for us to make small logic errors when we're working with forms-based applications. Now lastly, in our trees processing, when they select trees, we're running this and we're adding items from our trees to our trees text box based on our tree's selected index. So all that looks right. But here at the beginning, I should be initializing my tree result, not my flower result. So that's how I'm losing that flower when I select a tree. So text box result trees is that text property should be cleared out. Let's see if that fixes all those weird bugs. I'll select a flower. That's still working. It was working before. I'll select a tree. Oh, that's better. I didn't lose my flower. I'll select another tree. Okay, now my trees seem to be working okay without going crazy. What if I type a flower in? Okay, notice how that event procedure is being executed every time I type a keystroke, and it's copying exactly what I type in down to that text box, and it's not affecting the trees at all. So perfect, voila, looks great. Good stopping point. This thing is perfect. So I'm going to go to my Solution Explorer, and I'm going to check this into TFS in this state. And I'm going to say this is going to be my gardening guide initial check-in. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to my Solution Explorer and try to remind myself that I need to update this. I'm going to check it out. Check it out. Now it's marked in TFS as being checked out. So if I were to go to another computer and get latest version, at least I would get a reminder from TFS, you know, you have this checked out someplace else. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't have my latest version on TFS. Okay, problem. All right, so we're going to add a menu to our program here. So I'm going to go back to our form in design mode, and a menu bar. When we think about working with Windows, we're all used to menus, and we see different types, different styles, depending on the kind of application that we're using. The old school Windows menu system, like kind of what we see here in Visual Studio, has the single word menu item, and then they're called drop-down menus, right, because everything drops down, and then we can have, you know, additional items dropping down from those, you know, sub-items and all of that. And we're used to things being in a certain place with Windows. That's, again, part of the consistency. We know that on the File menu, we should have New and Open and Save and things like that. Exit that are always on a File menu. Under Edit, We always have items like copy and paste and find and, maybe our options. It depends on the application. Now, when we bring up Office, any sort of Office product, I'm going to let Outlook open here. And I look at my calendar. With Office, we went towards these ribbons. Again, this is a menuing type system. It's just that each menu item brings up a ribbon, another toolbar type thing instead of a drop-down menu. So same kind of concept, just a little bit different of an implementation. So when we create menus on our system, right now using the menu tool that we have, the menu control, is going to be a menu bar like this, like in Visual Studio. When we're working with this kind of menu, remember the Alt key? The Alt key will activate the menus. And then once a menu system is activated, certain key letters will be underlined, and those are kind of hotkeys. So right now, if I press the letter F, it will activate my file menu. From there, if I press the letter O, it would activate the open dialog. So those shortcut keys or quick action keys are available as part of a menuing system, so we can add those to our menus also. Okay, so let's find it. We're looking for a menu strip. There it is in our toolbox, sorry. So let's grab that menu strip and put it on our form. And we know normally menu bars are across the top, so that's where we'll drop it. Now, as soon as we drop that menu strip onto our form, we have this new item here in the middle of our screen that we haven't really paid much attention to. This is our component tray, and this menu is considered a component because it has more than just a few properties. It has individual controls within it that each have properties, so a little bit more than just a control. It's a component. A component can be activated by clicking on it down here in the component tray, and we'll see that component's properties. So here's its name, menu strip 1, and then some overall menu item, things, how we want things to be set up. All right, so let's add an item to our menu. I'm going to go to my form, and I see this tiny text box that says click here, and if I click there, I can type in text for my first menu item. This is going to be my file menu, and we saw that on the file menu it's the F key that is kind of a shortcut key. We can indicate that by preceding it with an ampersand. So amper, F-I-L-E, and that's going to be my file menu. I'm going to have to mess with these fonts, aren't I? Let me go back to my menu strip. Let's find our back color, because it's just like a button is a little bit messed up. There we go. I'll just make it a medium blue, and then I need my fore color. I'm going to leave it that awful black there. It went to yellow. We'll see. Okay, so under our file menu, if you can see that, I apologize, we'll get it all fixed. Under our file menu, we're just going to add some basic things to our menuing system. And for our file menu, we want the exit. And we saw that exit, if we look at file here, exit, it's really the X that is our hotkey. So let's put that E ampersand XIT, and that is going to be our exit menu item. Now, as I'm creating these menu items, I can give them names. So let's do that for our file menu. I'm going to click on it, make sure I have it selected, and it has a really long name, and that is kind of a little bit too much. So let's call this menu File, and then underneath that, our exit menu, we'll call it Menu Exit. And then beside our File menu, we're going to have Edit. I'm not going to have a shortcut key per se for that. When I press enter, I can click on it again to return to the properties to name it. Menu Edit. Now, under our edit menu, we're going to have two options. We're going to allow our user to change the font, and we're going to allow them to change the color. So we're going to put those two options on our edit menu. The last menu that we're going to have is our help menu. If we look at our help menu, it's always F1, so it doesn't necessarily have a shortcut letter. Help. And under our help, we want to create an about. We'll just put about, and I'll rename these. Whoops, I double clicked, didn't I? Now on our help menu, I want to name it Menu Help, and our about menu, Menu About. And then I'm going to double check our edit menu because I think I didn't do those right. Menu Font. And finally, Menu Color. All right, so our menuing system should be built. Let's run our application and see how it looks. So my font is a little weird, my colors. I'm going to fix that. But when I mouse over them, if you notice, they turn to the yellow. So that's just kind of what we're running into with our color choices from our textbook. So that works all right. Now, none of these menuing items are active yet. We need to add code and associate code with these to make something happen. So let's do our file menu first. If somebody clicks on File, Exit, we want to close our application. So I'm going to go to that menu and choose File and mouse over Exit, and I'm going to double click. And that creates that event procedure for me. Now, in this one, I want to close out of the application. And we remember from our last application that is application.exit. I'll put a comment. This method closes the app. File, exit. Let's run it, make sure it works properly. File, exit, closes out, just perfect, exactly like we wanted. Now let's skip our edit menu for now, and let's implement our help. I want to show you the help about on Visual Studio, help about. And some of you that are people that have been on computers for several years know about the Help About screen. Some of you may not, that's okay. Help About is a standard Windows screen that's always under the help system that tells you about the application that you're running. So you can find information like the version and what kind of updates are installed. And notice with our Visual Studio application, because it is so robust, we have a lot of about information here presented to us. Ours is going to be a little shorter. For our application, we're going to use a MessageBox, and a MessageBox is just an awesome thing that I hope you've worked on your own, because we haven't worked on any together or with Rebel. So let's create one. Under Help, I want to double click on About to create that event procedure. And when somebody clicks this, I'm going to use a MessageBox. The MessageBox only has 3 methods available to us, and the one that we normally use is show. So I'm going to choose MessageBox.show. Now notice the MessageBox.show has 21 overloads, 21 different ways you can call this method, different parameter sets. The first one is just a string of text, and that's actually what we could use for ours, but I think we want to get a little fancier than that. If we just use that one parameter, that one string of text, that'll be the message that displays in the message box. If we send 2 strings of text, this third overload option, the first string will be the message in the message box, and the second string will be the title of the message box window. So we can get pretty fancy. We can get a lot fancier. So let's build this. We want our message to say gardening guide. I'm going to add a little bit more here. It's going to say application under that. And then we want some new lines, 1, 2, 3 of them. And we're going to say VR version 1.0. That's going to be the end of the string that we want to display as the message. So we're going to use a comma to indicate that we have a second parameter. Our second parameter string is going to say about gardening, and that's what's going to show up in the title of our message box. Let's put a comment here. Displays the help about message box. Let's run it. We should be able to help about. Awesome, about gardening. Here's our application and our message box. Yes, you can put images and all sorts of different things in message boxes. So that's a great thing to experiment, see how it works. Okay, the last part of what we need to do for this application is implement our edit menu. And on our edit menu, we have font and color. Well, that sounds pretty involved, doesn't it? What we're going to do is allow people to change the font and the color of this message down here at the bottom. That's what's going to be affected. We're going to do this to demonstrate how we can use the system dialogues. Windows comes with certain standard dialog boxes that you've probably used a lot of different times, and one of them is the font dialog. So in your toolbox, find that control the font dialog and drag it and drop it on your form. Notice that you don't see it anywhere on your form, but it does show up in this component tray down at the bottom of the screen. So if you click on Font Dialog 1 and look at its properties, you can see that first of all it has a name. We'll leave it this default name. The font dialog itself is going to allow people to choose a different font if we display it. By default, it's going to show a certain font as the one that's already chosen and let them pick a different one. So let's start with this just by adding in an event procedure for our edit font menu. So if somebody clicks on edit font, they want to be able to change their font. Let's see, we named it Font Dialog 1. And if we want somebody to see it, we're going to use the Show Dialog method. And that's going to display that font dialog. So let's try it. Edit font. There's the font dialog. That's the one I'm talking about. Now, normally when you click on things, it shows you a sample. You can decide how you want stuff. When you've got it the way you like it, you can click OK, and then you will have applied that font. Well, we have to add some code in to make that happen. Now, also, if our user clicks cancel, we don't want to change their font settings. So a few different things for us to do here to use this font dialog box properly. First of all, when the font dialog displays, it shows a given font. So let's make it show the font that we're currently using. So whatever our label output current font is, that's what we want the font dialog to show when it first displays. Now, in our display of the font dialog, that's great. We know that this displays it, but we'd like to be able to check to see if they choose OK or cancel. So let's embed the showing of this font dialog within an if statement. If, when we show this font dialog, let's get rid of that semicolon, we do not get what equals a dialog result, which is a keyword, of cancel. So if they don't click cancel, then we're going to update our labels font, and we're going to set it equal to the font that they picked. Easy enough, huh? So first, we save the font that we're using currently, display the font dialog box. If the dialog result is not equal to a cancel key being pressed or clicked, we update the font. Let's add a comment for that before we try it. All right, I'm going to run this. Edit font. That looks right. Microsoft Sans Serif, regular 12. Remember, we set those settings on our form. I'm going to go to, I don't know, something wild here. We'll do some Old English and a great big font. And let's see what that does. Oh, can't even see it. There it is, but it's there, huh? So it's doing something. So it did definitely change the font. Now, when I display the font dialog box again, notice that it shows that as the current font because that's what that message box is using right now. So pretty powerful there. Let's close that. So that's using our font dialog. Now let's implement our edit color menu. To edit our color, we're going to look for the color dialog. Just the same way we use the font dialog, we can use the color dialog. When I drop it on my form, it creates an entry down here in my component tray. To add code to use it, I'm going to choose Edit Color. Now, just like our previous entry, we're going to say, hey, whatever color dialog color you want to use, set that to our label outputs color. That color, huh? What do you think? 4 color, right? Because we're talking about the words, the font on the words. So we're going to say set the color dialog's color to whatever our LBL outputs color is right now. Then our if statement will be just the same. If this dot color dialog dot show dialog, if the results from that are not equal to cancel, then we're going to update our LBL output color to be equal to our color dialog color. Add a comment here. Now we're just using it for our output label. I want to go back to my design on my form and move my label up a little bit. So I have a little bit of room to use a bigger font. Maybe not quite as big as I chose, but a little bigger. Okay, so on my edit menu, first I'm going to change my font a little bigger. Yeah, still not too much room, huh? And then I'm going to add my color, change it. All right, that looks great. You know, I'm thinking that I messed it up whenever we were working with our label and we changed that auto size entry I better change that back to true. Let's see if that helps. I'm going to run it. Do my edit font. Pick something bigger. Oh yeah, that's better. And now I can edit my color, change my color, and we can see that we've got those system dialogues implemented in our code. Now, when you look at the code for this application, remember that each method in and of itself is very short and very small, but each line of code can be somewhat complex. Each line of code has multiple levels concerning itself with the control and then the property, or the form and the control and the property. So we see our code getting a little bit more complicated as we start doing some GUI-based applications. We'll have one more demo for you, working with a little bit more advanced topics, but that's it for our information for this chapter. So thank you. Oops, wait, it's not, is it? I've still got to check this in. Let me check that in. So I added the menu, and I check that in. And then now I'm done. Thank you.